Forgiveness. Now that is an interesting one. Hey man, thanks so much for tuning in. I want to take this time to have a conversation with you about something that I feel like you need to hear. And that is just how important it is to forgive yourself. This is something that I feel like doesn't get talked about enough, and even if every person here on YouTube and social media did make a video talking about it, I still feel like that wouldn't be enough, because there would still be somebody somewhere who struggles with forgiving themselves for their past mistakes. And in the words of the Dry Creek Wrangler, man, what a tongue twister of a name that is, there is nothing that will destroy you faster than being unable to forgive yourself for past mistakes. The you that is you today is not the you that was you yesterday. I just want you to think about that for a moment. And, forgiving myself is only something that I was just recently able to completely do. Now look, I wish I could come on here and say to you that I am this perfect and flawless human being who never does anything wrong, but that could not be further from the truth, alright? I have made mistakes in the past that I am not proud of, okay? Look, I've said things to people that I didn't mean. I've had conversations that I regret having, or rather, I used to regret those things. Now that might sound a bit counterintuitive at first, but the truth of the matter is, as bad as it was to hurt somebody, and as bad as it was to betray somebody, I know deep down that if I didn't make those mistakes, I would not be the person that I am today. And that is the first key point that I want to make to you. Yes, you might have done something that you're not proud of. Yes, you might have done something that you're embarrassed by, and yes, you might have done something that even disgusts you. I get that, I've been there. But I assure you, those mistakes happened for a reason. Alright, those were lessons that God was trying to teach you. And if you look back on those things, and you feel guilt, anguish, disgust, or anything else in between, that means that you've grown. That means you've changed. That means you've gotten better since then. Because if you didn't get better, you would look at those things and think nothing of it, think it was normal, or worse, think it was okay. So if you did something a while ago that you're really not proud of, just know that that feeling that you get when you think about that mistake is simply a sign that you've changed and that you've grown. As far as I can tell, people seem to react to these sort of things differently. I know for a fact that I used to be very hard on myself, like extremely hard on myself. You talk to any of my friends who have known me for more than a couple of years, and they will tell you that some of the shit that I would say to myself over the smallest mistakes was unbelievable. Not in a good way, unbelievable. I mean, it was just atrocious, truly horrible language. I would say things to myself that I wouldn't say to my worst enemy. And that kind of behavior stemmed from me not being able to forgive myself. Now, as I'm sure you can imagine, thinking this way about yourself is far from the healthiest thing you can do mentality-wise. And you were absolutely right. There are times that I would say such horrible things to myself and would work myself up so much about a past mistake that I would be almost physically sick from the stress and anxiety that I put upon myself. And I promise you this one thing, man. No matter how bad you thought the mistake you made was, you do not deserve to physically make yourself sick from beating yourself up so much. The fact of the matter is, humans are going to make mistakes. You are a human. That means you're gonna fuck up. Hopefully, most of the time, your fuck-ups are minor and nothing significant. But I am confident that every single person has at least one point in their life made a bigger than average, I guess, fuck up. I know several people who regret a one-night stand that they had a handful of years ago. And I know someone who made the same mistakes as I did, where they made comments to people that they didn't really mean, and they had a conversation with someone that they regret. Does that make you or them a worse person for those mistakes? No, of course not. Especially since all of them learned from those mistakes. And that's another significant point I want to make. Those mistakes that you made were lessons taught to you by God. And if you are now able to recognize that they were mistakes, then that means you learned the lesson, because you know not to repeat them. This might sound like first grader stuff, and I apologize if it does, but that first grader stuff has got a lot of truth to it. Truths that we as adults far too often forget to give ourselves grace for. Because look, the thing is, if you don't forgive yourself for your wrongdoings, you will reach a point, and this happened to me, where you are so caught up in the guilt and shame of refusing to let those things go that it paralyzes you and it destroys you from the inside out. Alright, man? You have got to come to terms with what's in the past. You've got to come to terms with the things that you did. But also, you've got to come to terms with the fact that you learned from those mistakes. You've got to also come to terms with the fact that you've changed as a person since then. You are no longer the same person now as you were when you made those mistakes. And that might sound insignificant, but I promise you it's not. It's actually a huge thing. Because, as I stated before, it means that you've grown. It means that you improved. It means that you changed. It means that you learned the lesson that God was trying to teach you. In my case, I learned to reconsider what people find funny. And I also learned to not tell everyone everything that I know. Those are two very significant lessons that I needed to learn before I could become this version of myself. And that's the final point I want to make to you. You could not have become the thing that you are now without having made and learned from those mistakes in the past. Again, they happened for a reason. The reason wasn't to guilt trip you. The reason wasn't to make you feel like garbage all the time. No, the reason was just to teach you something that you needed to know in order to become the person that you want to be. Alright, man? Listen, I hope this little conversation of ours helped. Thank you so much for tuning in, and until next time, I'll talk to you later. Take care.